Presentation. Friday morning and I'm sitting in the 42nd floor conference room at Morgan Stanley reviewing my presentation materials for the quarterly derivatives review when Marcus Wellington III walks in wearing a chiton suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. The fabric is some kind of Super 200s wool that catches the light in a way that suggests both wealth and restraint. Italian craftsmanship at its absolute peak. The kind of tailoring that requires 3 fittings and a relationship with the kind of artisan who only makes clothes for people whose names appear in Forbes. I'm wearing Brunello Cucinelli myself. A charcoal gray suit that cost $8,000 and fits perfectly across my shoulders and through the waist. The fabric is cashmere and silk blend that feels like liquid luxury against my skin. But looking at Marcus's suit I realize that mine suddenly looks pedestrian. Off the rack. Like something a middle manager would wear to his daughter's wedding to impress relatives who shop at Joss Bank. Preston, Marcus says, settling into the chair directly across from me at the conference table. Ready to show everyone what you've been working on? The conference table is 40 feet of polished walnut that reflects the Manhattan skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows that cost more to install than most people's annual salaries. 12 leather chairs that probably cost $3,000 each. A presentation system that can display anything from Bloomberg terminals to holographic projections of market data. This is where the real decisions get made. Where careers are built or destroyed in 90-minute meetings that determine the allocation of billions of dollars. I've been preparing for this presentation for 6 weeks. My crypto derivatives portfolio has generated returns of 47% over the past quarter. I've identified 3 new opportunities in the DeFi space that could generate profits in excess of $200 million. I've developed a risk management strategy that reduces downside exposure while maximizing upside potential through sophisticated hedging mechanisms that most of our competitors don't understand. More than ready, I tell Marcus, arranging my materials on the table. I think everyone's going to be impressed with what we've accomplished. My presentation materials are organized in custom leather portfolios from Smythson. Each page is printed on paper that costs $12 per sheet. The charts and graphs are color-coded and cross-referenced with supporting documentation that demonstrates not just profitability but the systematic thinking that generates consistent returns across multiple market conditions. Everything is perfect. Every detail has been optimized for maximum impact. Marcus opens his own portfolio and I immediately notice the difference. His materials are bound in what appears to be genuine crocodile leather. Not embossed cowhide that looks like crocodile. Actual crocodile skin that probably came from some endangered species that requires special permits and international shipping arrangements. The kind of luxury that you can't buy with money alone. You need connections, relationships, access to suppliers who don't advertise their services on the internet. But it's not just the materials. It's the presentation itself. Where my charts show quarterly performance, his show 3-year trends. Where my analysis focuses on specific opportunities, his demonstrates market-wide patterns that reveal fundamental shifts in global financial systems. Where my recommendations suggest incremental improvements to existing strategies, his propose entirely new approaches that could revolutionize how we think about derivative instruments. The other attendees start filing into the conference room. Senior VPs and managing directors and the kind of people who make decisions that affect entire economic sectors. Everyone is wearing expensive suits and Swiss watches and carrying themselves with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money or status or whether other people approve of their choices. But even in this room full of successful, wealthy, powerful people, Marcus stands out. There's something about the way he moves, the way he speaks, the way he occupies space that communicates not just success but effortless superiority. Like he was born knowing things that other people spend their entire lives trying to learn. Like wealth and power are his natural environment rather than something he had to achieve through effort and strategy. The presentation begins with standard quarterly reviews. Performance metrics, risk assessments, regulatory compliance updates. The usual corporate theater that's required before we get to the real business of making money and destroying competitors. I'm scheduled to present fourth, after Marcus, which seemed like good positioning when the agenda was being planned but now feels like a strategic error. Marcus goes third. He stands up and somehow the entire energy of the room changes. People sit up straighter. Pay closer attention. Stop checking their phones and focus completely on what he's saying. His voice has this quality that commands attention without seeming to demand it. Natural authority that doesn't require effort or performance. Over the past quarter, Marcus begins, we've been developing what we call the Wellington Protocol. A systematic approach to crypto derivatives that combines traditional risk management with machine learning algorithms that can predict market movements with unprecedented accuracy. The Wellington Protocol. Named after himself. The kind of branding move that would seem arrogant coming from anyone else but somehow feels appropriate when Marcus does it. Like of course he would develop something significant enough to warrant eponymous naming. Like his contribution to financial theory deserves the same recognition as Black-Scholes or the Sharpe ratio. His presentation unfolds like a masterclass in strategic thinking. Charts that demonstrate not just profitability but market dominance. Analysis that reveals patterns no one else has noticed. Recommendations that could generate billions in profits while simultaneously destroying entire categories of competitors. Everything I thought I knew about crypto derivatives suddenly seems elementary. Undergraduate-level thinking compared to his graduate-level insights. The key insight, Marcus continues, clicking through slides that look like they were designed by the same people who create presentations for the Federal Reserve, is that traditional models assume rational market behavior. But crypto markets are driven by social media sentiment and algorithmic trading patterns that create predictable irrationalities. The Wellington Protocol exploits these irrationalities systematically. He's not just describing a trading strategy. He's outlining a new form of market manipulation that's sophisticated enough to be legal and profitable enough to justify any regulatory risks. The kind of innovation that changes entire industries and creates new categories of wealth for people smart enough to understand and implement it properly. The questions from senior management are exactly what you'd expect. Penetrating inquiries about risk management and regulatory compliance and scalability across different market conditions. Marcus answers each one with the kind of detailed knowledge that demonstrates months of preparation and the kind of intellectual depth that can't be faked or manufactured through hard work alone. What kind of returns are we projecting? Asks the managing director of fixed income derivatives. Conservative estimates suggest 200% annually, Marcus replies without hesitation. But if market conditions remain favorable, we could see returns approaching 400% within 18 months. 400% returns. On institutional scale capital allocations. We're talking about profits in the tens of billions. The kind of money that affects national economies and changes the fundamental structure of global financial markets. And Marcus is presenting it like it's just another quarterly initiative instead of the discovery of a new form of economic physics. My turn comes next and suddenly everything I've prepared seems completely inadequate. My 47% returns look pathetic compared to his projected 400. My risk management innovations seem obvious compared to his algorithmic insights. My market analysis appears superficial compared to his systematic understanding of behavioral patterns and technical inefficiencies. I stand up and begin my presentation, but I can tell immediately that the energy in the room has changed. People are still polite, still attentive, but there's a different quality to their attention. Like they're going through the motions of listening rather than genuinely engaging with the material. Like they're already thinking about Marcus's presentation and how to implement the Wellington Protocol across their own portfolios. Over the past quarter, our crypto derivatives unit has generated returns of 47% through strategic positioning in Bitcoin futures and Ethereum options. 47%. The words sound hollow as they leave my mouth. 3 months ago that number would have seemed impressive. Today it sounds like the kind of modest success that competent analysts achieve through basic technical analysis and adequate risk management. Nothing revolutionary. Nothing that changes how people think about markets or trading or the fundamental nature of financial instruments. I continue through my prepared remarks, but I can see people checking their phones again, looking at their watches, thinking about lunch plans or afternoon meetings or anything other than what I'm saying. The charts and graphs that seemed so compelling during preparation now feel like elaborate documentation of mediocrity. Evidence of solid but unremarkable performance that won't be remembered or discussed or implemented beyond routine portfolio adjustments. Questions? I asked when I finish, and the silence stretches for exactly 4 seconds before the managing director of fixed income derivatives asks a perfunctory question about regulatory compliance that suggests he wasn't really listening to anything I said. After the meeting, Marcus and I walked back to our offices together. The hallway is lined with original artwork and Persian rugs and the kind of architectural details that communicate both permanence and prestige. Morgan Stanley has been in business for almost a century. These offices have seen the rise and fall of entire economic systems. Fortunes made and lost. Careers launched and destroyed. Nice presentation, Marcus says, but there's something in his tone that suggests the opposite. Not criticism exactly. Something worse. Dismissal. Like my presentation was competent enough to avoid embarrassment but not significant enough to merit serious consideration. Thanks, I reply, because what else can I say? That his presentation made mine look amateurish? That his innovations make my strategies seem obvious and outdated? That listening to him describe the Wellington Protocol was like watching someone reinvent mathematics while I'm still working with addition and subtraction? We reach the elevator bank and Marcus presses the button for the 45th floor. His office is 3 floors higher than mine. Better view. Larger space. Closer to senior management. All the subtle status indicators that communicate hierarchy without explicit acknowledgement. The kind of details that matter immensely but can't be discussed directly without seeming petty or insecure. Have you given any thought to the Wellington Protocol? He asks as the elevator doors close. Have I given any thought to it? I've been thinking about nothing else since he started presenting. Analyzing every component of his strategy. Trying to understand how he developed insights that completely escaped my own analysis. Wondering how long he's been working on it and whether there are other innovations he hasn't shared yet. It's interesting, I tell him. Complex but potentially very profitable. Complex, Marcus repeats, and I realize immediately that I've chosen the wrong word. Complex suggests difficulty understanding rather than appreciation for sophistication. It makes me sound like someone who needs time to process ideas that he grasps intuitively. Sophisticated, I correct. The integration of behavioral psychology with algorithmic trading is exactly the kind of innovation that creates new market opportunities. Right, Marcus says, but his tone suggests that my correction doesn't improve his assessment of my analytical capabilities. I'm thinking we might want to coordinate our approaches. Make sure we're not duplicating efforts or creating conflicting positions. Coordinate our approaches. Which means subordinate my strategies to his framework. Accept that his insights are superior and my role is to implement his vision rather than develop my own innovations. Acknowledge that the hierarchy isn't just organizational but intellectual. That he thinks at a level I can't reach through effort or preparation or whatever advantages I thought I possessed. The elevator reaches the 42nd floor and the doors open. My floor. My office. My carefully constructed professional environment that suddenly feels provincial compared to whatever Marcus has created 3 floors above. I step out and turn back toward him. Let's set up a meeting next week, I say. Go through the details and see how we can optimize coordination. Sounds good, Marcus replies as the doors close, and I'm left standing in the hallway thinking about how completely he just destroyed everything I thought I knew about my own professional capabilities. My office overlooks Central Park, but suddenly the view seems ordinary. Unremarkable. The kind of scenery that thousands of other finance professionals see from their own windows every day. Nothing special or unique or indicative of exceptional achievement. Just another expensive office in another expensive building filled with people who make more money than most but less than the truly successful. I sit at my desk and try to process what just happened. 6 weeks of preparation. Months of analysis and strategy development. Hundreds of hours spent identifying opportunities and developing innovative approaches to risk management and profit optimization. All of it rendered obsolete by one presentation that demonstrated a fundamentally superior understanding of market dynamics and trading psychology. The worst part isn't that Marcus's approach is better than mine. The worst part is that it's so obviously better that I should have seen it myself. The patterns he identified weren't hidden or obscure. They were right there in the market data, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize them and systematic enough to develop strategies for exploiting them. And I missed all of it because I was thinking like a competent analyst instead of an innovative strategist. I opened my laptop and started reviewing Marcus's presentation materials, which he shared with the entire team as part of standard post-meeting protocol. Every slide reveals new layers of insight that I missed during the actual presentation. Charts that demonstrate not just current opportunities but future possibilities. Analysis that connects seemingly unrelated market phenomena into coherent patterns that can be predicted and monetized. This is what genius looks like in practice. Not just intelligence or knowledge or analytical capability, but the ability to see connections and possibilities that remain invisible to everyone else. The kind of cognitive superiority that can't be developed through hard work or education or experience. Either you have it or you don't, and Marcus obviously has it while I obviously don't. My phone buzzes with a text message. Marcus again. By the way, talk to Goldman about the protocol. They're interested in licensing. Lunch Tuesday to discuss. Goldman Sachs wants to license his innovation. Our direct competitor is willing to pay for access to strategies that Marcus developed while working at Morgan Stanley. The kind of intellectual property transfer that generates 8-figure licensing fees and establishes Marcus as someone whose ideas are valuable enough to transcend corporate loyalty and competitive boundaries. I stare at the message for 37 seconds before responding. Definitely. Let me know when and where. But what I'm really thinking about is how easy it would be to kill him. Marcus takes the same route to work every morning. Park Avenue subway to Grand Central, then the shuttle to Times Square, then the express train to Wall Street. Entirely predictable. Completely vulnerable. Thousands of people making the same commute, creating perfect cover for someone who understands how to exploit crowd dynamics and transportation system vulnerabilities. The subway platforms have security cameras, but they're positioned to monitor general crowd behavior rather than specific individual activities. Too many people moving in too many directions for comprehensive surveillance. Easy-to-wear clothing that obscures facial recognition. Simple to position yourself in camera-blind spots during rush hour when platform crowding creates natural camouflage, a single push at exactly the right moment. Just as the train approaches the platform. Physics and timing and crowd psychology working together to create what appears to be an accidental death. Tragic but not suspicious. The kind of unfortunate incident that happens occasionally in urban transportation systems despite safety protocols and warning announcements. The impact would be instantaneous. No opportunity for survival or medical intervention. The electrical systems would ensure immediate death while simultaneously destroying most forensic evidence. Investigation would focus on accident prevention rather than criminal activity. Insurance payouts and safety improvements and memorial services, but no murder investigation because there would be no evidence of murder. Marcus's family would receive condolences and financial compensation. Morgan Stanley would issue statements about workplace safety and the tragic loss of a talented colleague. His innovations would be absorbed into standard institutional practices without proper attribution. The Wellington Protocol would become just another trading strategy rather than a monument to individual genius. And I would be the natural choice to expand and implement his approaches. The colleague who worked most closely with him. The person who understood his strategies well enough to continue developing them after his unfortunate death. Within 6 months I would be receiving credit for innovations that were originally his ideas but became mine through circumstances beyond anyone's control. The perfect crime isn't just about avoiding detection. It's about creating outcomes that benefit you while appearing to be natural consequences of random events. Marcus's death would solve multiple problems simultaneously while generating opportunities that would otherwise be impossible to access through conventional career advancement strategies. I spend the rest of the afternoon researching subway safety statistics and platform architecture and crowd flow patterns during rush hour commutes. Not because I'm planning anything specific, but because understanding systems and possibilities is always valuable information that might become useful under different circumstances. By 5:30 p.m. I've identified 17 opportunities for what insurance companies would classify as accidental death occurring during routine subway commutes. Each scenario offers different risk-reward profiles depending on timing and location and crowd density variables. Some require more preparation but offer better plausible deniability. Others are simpler to execute but carry higher risks of witness identification or surveillance capture. The optimal approach would be Tuesday morning between 8:47 and 8:52 a.m. when Marcus typically catches the express train at Times Square. Platform traffic peaks during this window, creating maximum crowd camouflage while the train schedule ensures predictable timing for the critical moment when physics and opportunity intersect. But I'm not going to do anything on Tuesday morning except meet Marcus for lunch and discuss Goldman Sachs licensing arrangements and pretend that I'm not thinking about how satisfying it would be to watch his superior intellect get scattered across several hundred feet of subway track. Because the perfect crime isn't necessarily the one you commit. Sometimes it's the one you plan so thoroughly that you don't need to commit it because just knowing you could is enough to restore the psychological equilibrium that gets disrupted when someone demonstrates that they're fundamentally better than you at things you thought you were good at. I close my laptop and straighten my tie and walk out of the office thinking about how Marcus's chiton suit would look after 30 tons of subway train moving at 40 miles per hour had finished redistributing its expensive Italian wool across the underground transportation infrastructure of Midtown Manhattan. Tomorrow I'll buy a new suit. Something even better than chiton. Something that communicates not just wealth and taste but the kind of dangerous sophistication that smart people recognize and respect and fear. Because if you can't be the smartest person in the room, you can at least be the most dangerous. And danger, properly managed, generates its own form of respect that's often more useful than intelligence alone.